The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Thomas Sanherho. Hi, Thomas.
Hi, Dom. How's it going?
Very well, thanks. And Jack Barazzini. Hi, Jack.
How's it going?
Very well, thank you. So, folks, we are continuing to bring you the best of tech discussion that we can. We're very, we're all working from home these days, and we're all trying to figure out how to make it work. For those of us who are working from home, I know there's a lot of people who can't, but for those of us who are working from home, we're still, a lot of people are still trying to figure out the best way to do it. And our top segment today, our first segment, we're going to be discussing some of the particular foibles of the new working from home.
That's a good word for it.
Yes, I call it Zoom Follies.
Yes.
But of course, Zoom is just one platform for having online meetings with your coworkers. For other platforms, use Skype, Google Meet, Google Hangouts, which I still need to get myself clear on the actual differences between Google Meet and Google Hangouts. I've tried to figure it out, and I'm not quite sure exactly why Google has switched things around, but be that as it may, Google Meet, Skype, WebEx, there's all kinds of different. Slack even has a video meeting thing. But the term, I think the generic term everybody's kind of landed on is Zoom. Zoom is a particular platform. Before we get into it, I'm going to throw this at you guys out of the blue because I didn't prep you for this question. But does Zoom still have that big security hole problem that it had a while ago that made me rip it out of my computer?
I believe they do, yeah. I don't think they've patched that.
Okay. So it's an issue where I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. It's that it puts the way it gets itself into your system, if you try to delete it, it reinstalls itself, I think was part of it.
Yeah.
And then there was another privacy aspect too. Do you remember what that was?
They also could see what you were looking at in your browser. Like, they could see your screen, basically, while you were using it.
Right. Oh, right.
Yeah. It was a non-secure data transmittal.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm sure there's all kinds of great data flowing through Zoom's servers last week.
My favorite part of it right now is that I've hit a couple of times, because we're using it for our school, and I didn't really have much of a say in it, and I've been using it, and I'm kind of, it's on their system, so I'm good. But one of the things that I've seen is that every once in a while a button won't translate to English, and so you get the Chinese characters for it that appears on there. So that's always a little bit of an interesting warning. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, right. That's right. The Chinese Communist government is probably looking at my screen. Well, whatever the case, a lot of people don't have a choice. Like you said, they don't. This is what their company uses, and this is what they have to use. And so there's been a few stories the last few days as everyone is getting used to trying to do basically what I do every day, which is converse with my coworkers, my podcast co-hosts over Skype, and I've had over the years learned a bunch of different lessons that we want to share, but I want to kind of share some of the stories first, and some of the oh, poor Jennifer. So
start there, man. Let's just start there.
Let's just start with poor Jennifer. This is like Zoom gone bad. So this small office, I think there was like about 10 or so people on this one Zoom meeting, and they were all at home, and one person was in a car, and various folks, and one of the women in the office was a young woman who forgot that her camera was on, I think. I'm not sure there's a clear explanation, but she got up in the middle of the meeting, went into the bathroom, pulled down her pants on camera, sat down on the throne. And once the people in her meeting started reacting, she suddenly realized that she was on camera and hastily turned the laptop away from her. And there's always that one guy.
I think it's one of those where you think you mute the camera. Like, you go to click the mute camera button and you don't really check. You just go do what you're going to do. And then,
the nice thing is Skype gives you that clear indication of you in the corner. You know what I mean? Like, this is you. If you can see you. So
that's one of the things with Zoom. There is a way for you to not be able to see your own picture in picture. So you can, if there's enough people on the call, it will show you 4 or 5 of them, but it won't show you everyone. And so if you've got the top 4 or 5 on there and you're not talking, you won't see your own camera. So you might go to mute the camera, or just
assume you're not
just
on
forget.
Yeah.
Just forget that you're not part of the call.
I just always act like if my camera's not covered, I assume that it's on.
Yes. Yes. We'll have some tips in a bit on exactly how to best practices. But given that millions of people are on Zoom for the first time on a regular basis, this was inevitable. And poor Jennifer, like, it literally was trending #poor Jennifer. Poor Jennifer was the sacrificial lamb. So there was this other article that was in the Boston Globe, the 12 most annoying coworkers you face on Zoom. That's another one. And we'll kind of actually get into some of those as we go through, as we give our tips. And the first one I wanted to mention was I think what you guys were both saying. Always assume the camera is live, and that you've not sufficiently I use the term muted, Thomas, but you know what I mean. But darkened it, covered it, prevented people from seeing you electronically. That's that button, that click, that you click on screen. Sometimes those buttons don't always work.
Yeah, they can be placebos. I mean, that's you don't really know. And just because the light's not on, that's another thing that people assume, that just because the light there's an LED that's attached to your camera, and when it's recording, the light is supposed to be on. But there are plenty of ways to get around that. As a hacker, it's not hard to get the camera on without the light on.
Where I work, we've had to set up computers for classified areas before, and you have to physically open up the laptop and disconnect the microphone and the camera, because you cannot trust that it's turned off just through the software.
Yes, yeah. Like a lot of government facilities and other high security places I've known people who've worked in those. They talk about that. They're not allowed to bring certain kinds of phones in and all that sort of stuff. In fact, I went last summer to the Coast Guard Station, Boston, Coast Guard headquarters for the 1st Coast Guard District, with my Cub Scout troop. They got a tour, and even before you can go into the command center there, that everyone has to take their phone out and put it in these boxes before going in. Like, you're not allowed to bring your phone. I mean, it's not even that high security, but high enough that they didn't want you in there with them. So yeah, it's interesting these days. The other thing is because you can't really trust the digital switch, that the button on the screen. I've got and I've made it a pick before. I've got it on all my laptops and computers that have built-in webcams. It's a little sliding shutter. And I'll put a link again to that again. You can get like a half a dozen on Amazon for a couple $bucks. It's not, or 3D printed if you have a printer, I bet.
There you go. That's what I was talking about.
Start to learn.
There you go.
But if there's nothing as good as a physical shutter or something to put over it. So that's a good one. Related to that is always assume your microphone is live. That is a big one too. Even if you're not, visible. How many times have we been in conference calls with folks? Not even just Zoom conference, but the old style conference calls, and somebody's like eating their lunch, or says something inappropriate or borderline inappropriate to someone else in the room, or they just forget that
right.
We've all been in that conference call where someone yells out, "Could everyone just mute their phones, please?"
Yep.
That sort of thing. So, anything we need
that happened today.
Yeah, of course. It's every conference call you ever been on. is anything with more to think about that particular one? The assume your microphone is live. Any like you can't put a physical shutter over your microphone, but
I would also say with the meetings like this, make sure that you also know what is on your screen when you start to screen share.
Oh, that's a good one.
You know, that's happening a lot right now, and I think a lot of people are not aware of what exactly is going to show up when they switch to a screen share. And so it can be, you know, I mean, on the bottom end, it's just that you look kind of silly when you've got 20 different tabs open in your browser and you're trying to click around and find them. But then on the other, you know, confidential information being available through a meeting like this, it's dangerous.
Yeah, there have been times where I think I remember seeing on like CNN once, some analyst, some pundit was sharing his screen to the, you know, on the camera, or it was no, I'm sorry, the screen was behind him, and he was looking at something not safe for work behind him. You know what I mean? Like I think he eventually got fired. Like you could lose your job. You could, but even to the things like if you work in HR and you get someone's salary information on screen or stuff like that, you got to be really wary.
If you work in the government, there's a lot of classified stuff you got to be aware.
Right. And if I'm sure people who have work in classified jobs, they know these rules, but you can be held responsible. You would hope. That's right. One other one that I like to point out, and that poor Jennifer should have thought of, is excuse yourself if you need to leave the room. Don't try to be a part of the meeting while moving around. Not even if you go to the bathroom. Like just you're going to pick up the paper. I remember a few years ago when I was doing a radio program. In the middle of this radio interview, the guy gets up while still on the phone with us and goes to like sign for a UPS package. I'm like, dude, you're a guest on a radio program. Like, pay attention. Don't try to do other things while you're in the meeting. That's a big one. And then related, I call this the Leslie Nielsen rule, which was Leslie Nielsen, who was in those great Police Academy movies.
I'm interested to hear this one now.
Yeah, I saw this on. It was a meeting in a small city in Florida, where the mayor got up in the middle of the council meeting, left the room to go to the men's room, and while the other councilors were still speaking, he forgot to turn his microphone off, and you heard everything, and everybody busted up laughing because it's exactly what happened in a Police Academy movie. So it was not good. It was not good. So if you're wearing a microphone, take it off. Don't even turn it off. Take it off. I've had been at mass. I don't know if you guys have been at mass, and the priest standing at the door talking to people, and his voice is being projected all over the church because he forgot to turn his. Yeah. Do you guys have any other ones before I go on with what else I have? Any other bits of advice?
Yeah, I think in general, people just need to keep work etiquette if they're on a work call. I've noticed a lot of times people assume because you're at home, you're just going to sit around in your t-shirt and not really make any effort at all. And I think you should, if you're going to be working, you need to act like you're at work, even if you're at home.
That's a good point. Yeah.
For yourself more than for anyone else, really, because it reminds you, hey, I'm working right now, not just sitting in my office doing whatever.
Wear pants.
Yes.
Because if you there's the old I attend meetings in my pajamas, I work from home. Like, no, don't do that. When I always, I always work from home. I always dress. I never sit at my desk working in pajamas or whatnot. I'm always dressed and ready to work. Now, I don't have any socks and shoes on, but I'm a hobbit, so that's my thing. I don't.
It's the way to go.
In the summer, I'll go a week at a time without wearing shoes. That's one of the benefits of working from home. But you can't see that, But you have to have a certain decorum. You don't have to wear a 3-piece suit. That's kind of a little. But at least be presentable on screen to your coworkers. Don't have bedhead. Don't wear a ball cap sideways. Act like you're at work if you're on a work Zoom. I think that's a big one.
Leave yourself a physical reminder too, if you need to, of drape a polo over your seat so that when you go to sit down, you've at least got that there in case you were doing something and, you were gardening and you came back to your computer and you're like, oh man, I forgot to get ready.
Yeah.
So you got something there
to
get yourself ready.
Yeah.
Good idea.
We kind of mentioned this, but I'll put about if you're screen sharing, but also be aware of your surroundings. What's in the background of your room? We've been doing live video for a while. With Let's Talk, we've been doing Let's Talk live over the last week or so, and every day I have to pick up, make sure that my office is not a disaster from the kids coming in when I'm done working. But look at what's on the shelves, look what's hanging on your walls. Skype, I know, has the blur background feature, which can be okay. It can be sometimes it works better than other times. Sometimes. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but sometimes it has a harder job of blurring the things correctly and defining lines. It's not a great feature, but look what's behind you. And then if you can't be in a room with the door closed, let the other people in your home know that you're in a meeting. Don't let your husband walk behind you in his boxers while you're talking to your boss or something along those lines. It's just be aware of what's going on around you. There's that famous, what was it? The BBC interview. What was it last year, the year before? The guy who was on the BBC and he's in his office and then the door suddenly swings open and in comes the two toddlers and he's trying to shush them away. And the mom kind of comes in trying to crouch, but everyone can see everything. Like she's in the shot, but she's kind of crouched and trying to drag them out. And everyone's mortified. And the interviewer is laughing hysterically, just trying to stay professional.
Well, and if you do end up on the back of someone's call like that, just act naturally and excuse yourself. Don't try and hide suddenly like you're going to be able to disappear from the camera. Yeah. Just you're going to make it worse if you do that. Just realize that you're there and turn around and leave.
Or do what I do. Stand behind the sofa and pretend to do the pantomime of going down the elevator. You press the button and kind of lower yourself down and then walk up the stairs. Yeah, that will go over great. The last bit of advice that I have is use headphones and a microphone. Don't rely on your laptop speakers and the built-in mic for your laptop or computer, if at all possible. Use your phone's earpods. If you have an iPhone, you have earpods that has a microphone and headphones, or at the very least, because there's nothing worse than that, especially when you're in a big room and it's echoing and booming everywhere and it's hard to hear and. Yeah, it's a mess. So,
or that ambient sound of the fan in the background, like I've had a couple of times on mine.
Yeah, but I have audio editing equipment, and I edit all the audio for our podcasts afterward, sometimes I have to pull a lot of this stuff out. You'd be surprised. I mean, we have pretty good setups here, but you'd be surprised at what your microphones pick up in just in a straight up call. It can be a lot more distracting for others. So do you guys have any other advice for folks for remote conference calling with folks?
Be on time.
Oh, good one. If the meeting's at a particular time, be in there on time. 10 seconds early, 30 seconds early, maybe a little early, but don't be 5 minutes late. Nothing worse than someone's already started their presentation and then you hear the beep boop. John is entered the room. It's like, John. Some of the conference calling stuff is it also does it beep boop when you leave, and suddenly you hear like beep boop, and then you realize someone has left the meeting and you left one. This is if you're doing a non-video meeting and you're like, all right, who snuck out?
Who was it that left? Yeah.
We've been having that all week. And then you have to stop and the host has to ask who's still in there. It disrupts everything.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So those are some tips. If folks have any tips that they'd like to share with the rest of the audience, they feel free to send them in. Email them to technology@sqpn.com. We'd love to share them. Any hard-won advice you have for folks. Because sometimes it is hard won. And I'll put the link to the 12 most annoying coworkers you face on Zoom. And Also, another article, also in the Boston Globe, about why Zoom cocktails with friends is the salve we all need now. Just these tools are not just for work. They can be a great way when we're social distancing to get together with folks and have some social FaceTime with people. And that's important, I think.
Dungeons and Dragons must continue. It must.
Nice.
That sounds like fun.
That does sound like fun.
I have a monthly meeting, and we were like, we were going to meet this last Monday, and if it hadn't been for a couple of people being, feeling out of it just because of all the stress they're under, we would have been meeting on a conference call.
That would have been great. That
Nice.
sounds like, Dungeons and Dragons you could totally do.
Oh, and there's some really great apps out there right now. I haven't invested in any because we actually physically meet, but there are some really good apps out there that allow you to put a map on the screen. You're not even screen sharing; it's just the map is controlled by the app. And as a DM, you can reveal locations and move tokens around. So,
cool.
Yeah.
There was this is a bit of a tangent, but we're there. So there was a rat hole. There was I saw this news piece. It was a video news piece a while ago about this guy up in Canada who's had an ongoing D&D campaign for over 20 years. I think it might have been even 30 years.
Nice.
A regular ongoing campaign where it's to the point where people are calling in from around the world. Like these people, they've dispersed, but it's the same people. They've added people and lost people over the years, but same core group of people for 30 years. And his basement now is a giant, sort of like the model railroad, except it's a giant like model D&D world. And it's amazing. I want to be this guy's
Terrain,
friend.
Awesome.
man. Terrain's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounded awesome. It was
Another good use of a 3D printer.
Oh, now I gotta have a 3D printer. Well,
See, I'm telling you.
Well, that makes a good segue to our next segment because
There
we're
you
going
go.
to talk about 3D printers to the rescue. One of the aspects of the current crisis is the shortage of a lot of necessary medical equipment, and among those things are things like valves that need to be regularly replaced, and the ventilators, which for when people one of the symptoms of coronavirus is that you need a ventilator in a severe case, and you need assistance in breathing. But they need these valves that get replaced, and apparently they cost like up to $11,000.
Mm-hmm.
And in Italy, they were running out, and the company that makes them couldn't produce them fast enough. Well, it turns out that these guys figured out that it's just a relatively straightforward plastic part that they could build with they have industrial 3D printers. And so they measured and examined. They couldn't get the blueprints or the 3D computer aided design files from the manufacturer because it's patented, and there were the company can't just give it away or they lose the patent. So they had to kind of reconstruct it from scratch. But the bottom line is they can reproduce these for $1 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
And they've made several hundred of them. I mean, that's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. I think a lot of people ask then why does the original cost as much as it does? And the thing you have to remember is that there's a manufacturing issue going on, that good enough is good enough right now.
Yes.
And, so a medically sound piece of equipment is going to cost a great deal more money. But in this case, where we're saving lives, it doesn't need to be medically sound. It just needs to work. And that's what these guys have managed.
Right. It's better. It's the better than nothing, better than people dying case. But for it in normal circumstances, you have to have the best possible with the completely minimize risk. The other thing probably is the cost of something is not just how much it costs to make it now. It includes the sunk cost of designing it and developing it and getting it through regulatory processes and things like that. So those are there too. But we're in a unique situation.
Yeah, because I think as part of the 3D printing community, we're all cheering about it, but at the same time, we realize the limitation of why it is that you can't just do this on a regular basis, and so there's been a lot of talk back and forth about why exactly it is that you can't just do this on a regular basis, and so the more you dig into it, the more you realize that there's a lot of issues about sterility and materials that are not going to cause degradation. And the normal use case is not this case for the ventilators, where you're just trying to keep somebody alive. You're trying to, in some cases you've got a burn victim that has severe lung injuries, and any sort of infection is going to kill them, and you put them on a ventilator to prevent that. And part of that is the sterility process.
And then there are a bunch of other things that they're also being made in this process as well. There are like Hewlett Packard is using they build 3D printers, but they're using a bunch of their own 3D printers to in-house to make medical face shields for hospitals, and hospital grade face masks and nasal swabs and things like that. HP, there's a company called Carbon who normally make things like bicycle seats and teeth straighteners. They're making face shield designs. Ford is using they have 3D printers, 3M, General Electric. So it's really amazing how industry, it's almost like World War II when we turned the production lines to make bombers and tanks to now we have 3D printers. It's kind of fascinating.
I think it's going to be good for 3D printing in general. It's probably going to help move that field forward in the long run.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what exactly is going to come from this, because it's showing the capability of 3D printing to really step up and solve problems. Yes,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's this sort of situation where, like we were just saying, we're in a scenario where the risk is worth it. We're less risk averse to trying things, and so that means we're more likely to take a leap. And those leaps can drive innovation forward.
Right. This is the definition of necessity as the mother of invention, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, as we saw that at World War II, the leap in technology that occurred as, they perfected planes. I mean, planes in 1935 and planes in 1955, there was a huge leap in aviation technology because of the need to get better and better, aircraft. That sort of thing. So it's a fascinating. Well, I'll link to these different articles. There's a bunch of these companies. It says residents at Mass General Hospital here in Boston are planning a virtual open moonshot competition. That says hosted online to develop a rapidly deployable mechanical ventilator within 90 days. I mean, that's sort of rapid innovation is fantastic. It's really amazing.
And hopefully in the long run, this kind of thing can bring down those $11,000 costs.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the other thing, is that because it's possible to make all of that same progress just to do it with a 3D printer. Right. And so some of what you're going to see from this is companies turning around and going, hey, we could do this. And the real advantage to 3D printing that I think a lot of people forget is the prototyping. You can prototype stuff so quickly with a 3D printer, and it's always set up the right way. You don't need to have a bunch of specialized machinery to make a particular shape of thing, like with flash molding. So you can get a 3D printer going, and even if it's just trying to sample something really quickly and then iterate on it, that's where the power of a 3D printer comes in.
Yeah.
Yes. One of my favorite companies that I've used for repairing my computers is iFixit, iFixit.com. I buy parts to fix my MacBook there before, and I've bought parts from them and that sort of stuff. So, but they're more than just fixing computers. They've set up a digital library of dozens of service manuals for ventilators, anesthesia machines that and the anesthesia machines can be used as backup ventilators. That allows them to be repaired as quickly as possible. You don't have to wait for a service tech to come in from the company. People on site who have that ability can do it. It's fascinating.
It's really cool.
And you can also distribute it too. That's the other thing that's really cool. Is like right now you're talking about the people printing face masks in Spain. There's a really strong 3D printing community and robotics community also, which I found out recently. But the 3D printing community has started just massively printing these face shields, and they've all just the file went out to everybody that was in the community, and everybody is just running as many of these face shields as they possibly can. And so all you need is just a file. That's it. And then you ship that to everyone, and you have now a distributed system to print massive quantities of something.
Right. Until we run out of plastic resin.
Yeah.
Plastic resin shortages.
But see, we make that from corn. So all we have to do is just be growing more corn. And there we go. We're problem solved.
It'll always be corn. That's great.
It reminds me of a physical version of, do you guys remember Folding at Home?
Yes. We talked about that last week on this show.
I'm actually going to be mentioning that later today for my recommendation today.
Oh, nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes, it's one of these ways of everybody participating. I mean, it kind of goes again. I'll go back to World War II. Victory gardens, where plant a garden, grow your own food. It reduces the stress on the food supply system because we're trying to send food over to the soldiers overseas, and scrap drives. And at the time, I mean, not the time. Actually, in retrospect, some people wonder whether scrap drives and those sorts of things were practically useful in the long run. One of the things they did was they got people in a mindset, to get behind it, and everyone at home is working together to bring things together. But these things really have utility. They really have practical utility. I mean, people are at home, even if they're not 3D printing masks, there are crafters who are sewing masks by the dozens and bring them to local hospitals. I mean, people are really banding together to do this together. So kudos to all the hackers, all the nerds who are now justifying. See, honey, this is why I spent $300 on a 3D printer. I'm saving lives.
There you go.
I'm going to say that to my wife. I'm just practicing now.
Exactly.
I got evidence. So
exactly. So another segment I want to move on to and talk a little bit about bandwidth throttling. We're all at home. We're all online. We're all working mostly, but the kids are on, Disney Plus, and when we're done working, we're on, Facebook, or on, we're playing video games, or we're not. One of the things that's happening is the internet bandwidth is getting clogged. It's getting difficult to have good connections and that sort of thing with everyone online. And so the tech companies started voluntarily, and starting in Europe, voluntarily throttling and decreasing the amount of data that they're sending out. YouTube is now streaming in SD, not HD, by default. The article I link is in the show notes says Europe, but they've actually started doing it in the US now too, as of today or yesterday, where when you start a video, it starts in standard definition. You can choose high definition, but you have to manually choose that at this point.
Right.
And Netflix is doing the same thing. They're reducing their bandwidth by 25%. You're not going to be getting your 4K streams. You might be getting high def.
Darn.
Although
the difference between a 1K stream and a 4K stream on a home entertainment system is ridiculous. Don't stream 4K at home. It's just crazy, man.
4K. Well, one of the things that Netflix does is they don't just stream the 4K to you. They actually have a very complex algorithm that shapes like every packet for optimizing it on your screen. It's a very technical and very complex process designed to, because I remember when Netflix started streaming, there were plenty of times when it would be buffering, it would get pixelated. I mean, I haven't seen that in ages on Netflix or Amazon. They've gotten really good at delivering these streams in high quality without overwhelming the bandwidth pipe. So I don't feel too worried about I'm not going to be able to watch my streaming videos and things like that. So
yeah, I don't think it's really anything anybody needs to worry about, honestly.
Yeah, although if they went down,
yeah,
if they went down, I would be amazed because of the amount of testing that they do around. They purposefully throw bugs into their system to make sure that everything is working. They've taken down the entire eastern seaboard worth of their servers just to make sure that all of their stuff is functioning and can evacuate and move to another server immediately.
Wow. catastrophic
they're
testing.
They're very robust, very, very, very robust.
That's good. I mean, given that we're like, I think I pointed this out once before. I forget which show. I do so many of them. I forget which ones I've said things on. But if this occurred 30 years ago, this event where we're all locked down in our homes, it would be a very different experience. You wouldn't have social media. You wouldn't have streaming video. You'd have 3 channels of broadcast TV and maybe whatever UHF you can draw in, and that's it. You wouldn't have ebooks. You'd have whatever books were in your home and some board games, and that's it. And we'd be stuck at home, and it would be a very different experience. So the internet is really a lifeline for people now. It's really a mental health lifeline in one circumstance. So it is important that we are able to keep these up and running as much as we can.
Hey, you wouldn't be able to work from home, so
exactly. Kudos to the companies for making sure that their stuff keeps rolling. And one thing I would add is I think I saw it was Verizon. I think is lifting its data caps.
Metro did it. Metro did it for me. They don't have data caps for me this month.
That's
WoW did that here too.
Yeah, I never hit my phone data cap anyway, but
I know, right?
Well,
but if your wireless goes down and you need to end up with using your phone data.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, if my home wireless goes, I'm not doing podcasts over my phone. It's not going to work. But I mean, right. And I'll edit a lot of it out before the listener hears this. But we're having Skype problems tonight. Obviously Skype is having issues. So we'll see how that goes with Skype. But I mean, we couldn't do what we do here without this connectivity that we have. So
right.
So we should probably move things along then before we lose our connection entirely and move into our last segment where we do our picks of the week. And so, Thomas, I think I'll let you go first just in case we lose you altogether. What's your pick of the week?
So we mentioned SETI and we mentioned the concept of distributed computing. And I just want to set it up for anybody who doesn't know what the search for extraterrestrial intelligence at home is or was. For a long while, we've had signals coming in from outer space, right? Just radio noise that's out there. And there's so much of it that no one computer can sit down and really just troll through all of that information to try and find anomalies. So what NASA decided to do, and the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, which was kind of plowing through all of this radio data, was they decided to chunk it up into packets and then send those packets out to a bunch of computers for anyone who was willing. And at first it started off as a screensaver, and then they figured out how to make it run in the background of your computer. And now it's actually a whole system. So if you go to boinc.berkeley.edu, which is boinc.berkeley.edu, not only is it SETI anymore, because SETI is actually closing down. They're finishing that run of research, and they're not going to be doing it anymore. But there is a COVID-19 research model going on right now, where they're trying to model the RNA sequence of COVID-19 so that they can better figure out how to combat it and what's going to do it in. And that is a distributed computing model. So you can go to Boink, get all signed up with everything there, download the program to run, and it runs in the background on your computer for all those times that you're, you got it on a screensaver, or you're just not doing anything with it, or you're sitting watching your TV and your computer is just sitting in your room on and not doing anything anyway.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I mean, our computers have, even when we're working on them, there's so much downtime built in between your keystrokes that it could be doing other stuff while you're doing it. So yeah, that's a great idea. We mentioned how I think a couple weeks ago we mentioned how the SETI at home was ending, but now this coronavirus ability for us to, again, another way for us to participate. It's fantastic. Jack, what's your pick this week?
So my pick this week is not a product or a service. It's if your parish does online giving, sign up for it, because most parishes now, because no one's going to mass, we're not going to remember to bring our checks or our dollars. So go online and sign up for your online giving for your parish. Definitely. I just did that recently. I think most churches do that. I don't know if every single one does, but it's pretty easy to find. So if you don't already do it, I think it's something to look at.
I think every parish should now be. to back up a step, about 10 years ago, I worked for the Archdiocese of Boston, and one of my jobs was talking to parishes about getting on electronic offertory and talking about the benefits of it. And one of the benefits is when the people aren't in the pew, they're still giving. So at the time it was, if I'm on vacation for 2 weeks of the year, 2 Sundays, say, or where I live, if there's a snowstorm on the weekend or some other thing,
right.
That's money that's not coming in. But if you have online giving, it's just automatic, goes every week, boom, it's in there. And every parish that does it signs up for it. It's like an automatic, I think they said 10% increase in giving just by people giving on a constant basis. But now, I mean, if a parish doesn't do it now, they're crazy. I mean, they really should be doing it. And if they're not signed up for one of the services, you could still set it up through your bank and the way you pay bill, through your bank online. You should still be doing it. Support your parish. Your pastor's still got to pay the bills even when you're not sitting in your pew.
Right, especially right now.
Yes, very good. That's a great point, Jack. Thank you. That's a good tip. Mine is a related technology tip for parishes, another technology area that I've been advocating parishes do for a long time, which is live streaming. I'm so gratified to see so many parishes out there, so many priests streaming their masses, and varying qualities. There was that one, the Italian priest who was streaming on Facebook and turned on the filters, so he kept getting googly eyes and weird things as he's celebrating mass. It's a little difficult to keep a straight face watching it, but there is a piece of software that you can run on a Mac called Ecamm Live, and I use it for SQPN. This is what we use to do our Let's Talk Live stream that we do every day, and it's fairly straightforward. They have excellent tools to help you get started. You need a computer and at least a webcam or something to do it, but it's a really powerful, straightforward piece of software that lets you stream directly to Facebook Live or to YouTube or half a dozen other services, and it's fantastic. It's you got to pay for it. It's not free, but it's $15 a month, or if you pay for it a year at a time, it's $12 a month for the standard product. But that comes with everything. I mean, you can even do green screens, picture in picture. You can have multiple Skype guests on, up to 5 guests. It's got all this stuff. And then if you go for the pro level, which, I think maybe if you're Bishop Robert Barron, maybe you do that. But, you can do 4K streaming and all kinds of stuff. And I do lower thirds. And you can also put, when people have comments in the chat room, say on Facebook or YouTube, you can put their comment on screen and, not during Mass, don't do it during Mass. But if you were having like Father Corey Stika from SQPN has been doing, he's been doing a daily catechesis on the Divine Office. Well, he could participate with people and people take questions and that sort of thing. You could use the Ecamm for that. So Ecamm software, check it out. We may be doing this for a month and that would be it. So pay, $15 for 1 month and you'll see how it goes.
Right.
That would be my suggestion. So Ecamm Live, and I would highly recommend it. And maybe we'll have some folks through connected to SQPN would be willing to kind of put together a guide for parishes on using Ecamm to live stream your Mass. So I'll have to see about that. I'm doing that off the top of my head. I don't want to commit myself to any extra work that I can't do, but we'll see how that goes.
What? You're working from home now, right? You got plenty of time.
All this extra time because I'm not doing the same thing I do every day.
Right.
All right. I think that about does it for that. I think we get some great information in today's episode. And so as we finish up, I do want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including this week, Jedediah H. I love that name. Jedediah H., Arthur B., Edward C., Ken M., and Patricia T. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. Like I said, if you got tips for good Zoom meetings, etiquette, and tips on how to work from home remotely, we'd love to hear them from you. let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. And we'll put links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com. Until next time, Jack Barazini, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thanks, Tom.
Thomas Sanderho, thank you as well.
I'm glad I stuck around till the end.
I'm glad Skype let you. And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.